Okay, today we're going to be learning about equations of circles and how we write them. So this right here is the standard form of the equation of a circle. And in that form, the center can be found by saying that is the point HK. And notice in the parenthesis it says minus H, but I write positive H. It says minus K, but I wrote positive K. This right here is the radius squared. We only need the radius, so if we take the square root of the radius squared, it'll give us the radius. So what this basically means is if I have a circle and a quadrant plane, this is my center, HK, and the radius is the distance from the center. So the first thing we're going to do is, given the equation, figure out the center and the radius. So the center is the opposite of what's with it. So the opposite of negative 3 is positive 3. The opposite of positive 2 is negative 2. This right here is the radius squared. So to find the radius, we're going to take the square root of 9, which is 3. Number 2, the center is the opposite. So it's negative 5 and positive 7. And this is the radius squared. So the radius is the square root of 36, which is 6. Number 3, now there's nothing added or subtracted to that x, so the x-coordinate of the center is 0. The y-coordinate is negative 8. The radius is the square root of 100, which is 10. Number 4, the center is the opposite of what's with both, so it's going to be negative 5. The y's got nothing, so that's 0. And the radius is the square root of 25 over 49. Whoops, 45. And with a fraction, you take the square root of the top and the square root of the bottom. The square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 49 is 7. There's your radius. Number 5, even though there's fractions, it's not any harder. The center is positive 1/3, negative 3/4. The radius is the square root of 50. That is not a perfect square, so you have to simplify the radical. So you get 5 square root 2. Number 6, there's nothing added or subtracted to either the x or the y, so this point center is going to be 0, 0. The radius, is the square root of 48. So you get 2 and 24, 2 and 12, 2 and 6, 2 and 3. So this simplifies to 4 square root 3. Okay, now we have to go backwards. Given the center and the radius, write the equation. So we know the left part is going to be the opposites. So it's going to be x minus 4 squared plus y plus 5 squared equals, now we need the radius squared. So that's going to be 3 squared, which is 9. Over here, the left part, it's the opposite. So it's going to be x plus 6 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals the radius squared, which would be 5 squared, which is 25. Number 9, the equation is going to be x plus 2 squared plus, now remember, like look over here at example 6, when there's nothing added or subtracted to the y, when we want it to be 0, we just write that letter. So it's going to be y squared equals the radius squared, so 4 squared, which is 16. Over here, your center is going to be x plus 4/3 squared plus y minus 1/2 squared equals 3/5 squared. Okay, when you square a fraction, you square the top and you square the bottom. So 3 squared is 9, 5 squared is 25. On the last one, 0, 0. Now go back and look at 6. When it was 0, 0, remember it's just x squared, y squared, because there's nothing added or subtracted. So we have x squared plus y squared equals, now we need 2 squared, 3 squared. Well, that means we need to square each number. We've definitely done this before. 2 squared is 4. The square root of 3 squared, the radical cancels, and we just get 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. Over here, the center is 5, negative 2, so it's going to be x minus 5, because it's the opposite, plus y plus 2 squared equals 3 square root 7 squared. Well, 3 squared is 9. The square root of 7 squared is 7, so that's 63. All right, turn over to the next page. We need to find the center and the radius and then write the equation. Okay, to find the center, you just kind of have to eyeball it. So I'm going to say, oh, well, it goes from 7 to 1, so it's got to be 4, and it goes from 4 to 4, so it's got to be right here. Okay, so there's our center. So the ordered pair of that center, remember when you write a point, it's x and then y. And this is the x and this is the y. So the x is -3 and the y is 0. The radius you're going to count off the graph is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the radius is 4. So when you write your equation, it's the opposite, x plus 3 squared. If it's 0, you just write the variable squared, equals the radius squared would be 4 squared, which is 16. Okay, I want you to pause the video and do example 14 on your own. Okay, let's check to see if you got 14 right. So the center I found was the point 3, 2, and I counted the radius of 3. So my equation was x minus 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals the radius squared, which is 9. Okay, turn over to the last page, and we will graph them, and then we're done. Okay, so we're going to graph these, but the first thing you got to do is identify the center and the radius. So the center is the opposite of what's with this, so it's going to be +1, +2. This right here, remember, is the radius squared. So the radius is the square root of 16, which is 4. Step 1 is to plot the center. Remember, this is x, y, x, y. So I'm going to go to 1, up 2. Here's my center. Now, I'm going to count 4 in each direction to be able to find points on my circle. So I'm going to go up 4 and make a point. Right 4 and make a point. Down 4 and make a point. Left 4 and make a point. Now the trickiest part is trying to connect these dots and make it round like a circle, not straight like a square. So there's our circle. The last thing you have to do is identify the 4 points that are on the circle. So it doesn't matter where you start. I'm not concerned about the order. But if I look over here at this point on the right, this one is over 5 and up 2, so that's going to be 5, 2. The one on the top is over 1 and up 6, so that's 1, 6. The one on the left, they go left 3 and up 2, so that's -3, 2. The one on the bottom, they go over 1 and down 2, so that's 1, -2. Okay, pause the video and do number 16 on your own. Or I guess it's another 15. Okay, let's check your answers. So the center is the opposite, so that's -3, -2. The radius, this right here, is the radius squared, remember, so you have to take the square root to get 2. So starting at the center, -3, 2, I went up 2, right 2, down 2, and left 2. Connected the points, and these are the 4 points, and the order is not important, you just need those 4 points. All right, work on your homework that is due on Monday, and then you also need to work on your test review, which is due on Tuesday when you have your test.